Hello, I'm Charles the First, and this is a new series on the Holy Church of Joe Biden YouTube channel where we're going to go over certain topics in Bidenism. So this is a question I get a lot, and that is, what exactly is Daemonism? You hear people talk about Daemonism all the time, say this thing is Daemonist. Uh-oh. Is that the Daemon, So I thought, why don't we go over what Daemonism actually is in this short little slideshow I've prepared. So, I think probably the easiest way to look at Daemonism first is what is not Daemonism. So, obviously, Daemonism is not Bidenism. Daemonism is a direct refutation of Bidenist philosophy and theology, and I will go over this in more detail later on in this presentation. Daemonism is often also split into two separate ideas. There's the historic Church of Daemonism, which really, in the grand scheme of things, isn't that important. And there's Daemonism in the sense of what is not Bidenist. So, like, Daemonism is often attributed to ideas that don't follow, like, the national fiction or go against the codes of six. So, it's not, like, literally his Daemonism, but it's Daemonism in the sense that it is not Bidenist. But this presentation, we're going over what Daemonism itself actually is, not this other idea. Daemonism is also not Bushism. So, they're often put together. Though Daemonism was born out of Bushism, they are not the same thing. Bushism and Daemonism, they're often clumped together, but they have very different ideas. And a lot of what Bushism was about is now part of Bidenism, because Bushism became part of the Holy Church of Joe Biden. So, what is Daemonism rejecting? You heard me earlier say that Daemonism is a refutation of Bidenist theology and philosophy. So what does that mean exactly? Well, Daemonism refutes the Codes of Six. So the Codes of Six are like the Ten Commandments of the Holy Church of Joe Biden. Sort of. Not exactly. Some of them, what they say isn't exactly what they mean, but that's not important here. So Daemonism argues that the one is greater than any other. So in the Codes of Six, we have the idea for every one there is another. Daemonism says there is only one, and one is all that matters. It propagates individuality to the extreme. The individual, in a Daemonist sense, is completely separate from the rest of society. So if you engage with society, if you engage with other people, that is not Daemonism. Daemonism is a complete isolation from society. So there's the idea of kazomiri, which is one of the ills of the daemon, and that is the breakdown of bonds, familiar, social, etc. So Daemonism, you don't want to have any kind of bond, because by having a bond, you are putting something over the self, and the self is the most important part of Daemonism. There is no other. Everyone is alone. Daemonism believes in a universal duality, so there's no in between. Everything is either good or evil, ugly or beautiful, etc., etc. Everything is black and white. There is no in between. That is Daemonism. That is the universal idea of Daemonism. Daemonism also refutes the idea of the Bidenist afterlife. So Daemonism believes the self should be maintained forever at all cost, while as Bidenism, you are trying to return to the Biden to become ethereal once more. Daemonism says no to that. Daemonism is all about worldly pleasure and being rewarded by the daemon with eternal decadence, which you will see later on is not something you actually want. So, what is that? Well, it's first of all, it's the ills of the daemon. So, what are the ills of the daemon? You already know one, kazomiri. The other one is really hard to say, resposousis, or reposousi. So, what are those two things? Well, kazomiri is the breakdown of bonds, familiar or any other, and then resposousi is the destruction of order, or the breakdown of structured society. So Daemonism argues for, like, basically anarchism all the time. There is no rest. There's always chaos in a Daemonist world. The decadence of the daemon is eternal. There is no rest. You will never be able to sleep again. It will always be going on. all the time. So you also see decadence a lot. Well, besides the ills, what does that mean? What is the daemon's pleasure? Well, it's not yours, it's the daemon's. So in the Codes of Six, you are smitten with eternal decadence, which are these two things. But the pleasure is not human pleasure, it's the pleasure of the daemon. So what the daemon wants, not what you want. So now, what was the historic church of Daemonism? So that's usually when we talk about it, there's three different things we talk about. We talk about the Holy Church of Lord Bush, which is the least connected with Daemonism, but is an ancestor of it. So the Holy Church of Lord Bush was a counter to Bidenism early on. But its philosophy is nothing like Damonism. They don't believe any of the things that we talked about earlier. Well, they didn't. They no longer exist now. But the Daemon was a god in Bushism. The next one is the post-Bushite religion. And a Bushite is just a follower of Bushism. I don't know why we called them Bushites, but that's how it's ended up. Post-Bushite, the post-Bushite religion isn't really a counter to anything in Bidenism. It was just people who really liked Bushism. So when we integrated the Holy Church of Lord Bush into Bidenism, they just stayed out of it. And this is where Daemonism really comes from. There were some people who believed, okay, this Matt Damon guy, he's pretty cool. What if we made our own thing about it? So that's how it happened. And then eventually just the Church of Matt Damon was formed. We don't know if this is what they called it. We don't actually know much of anything about it, really. But that is what Daemonism came from. And where those ideas that we spoke of earlier really came from. It wasn't from here. It was from here once they started just going that. So what do we actually know about the Church of Matt Damon? Well, very little. We know that they believe that they share blood with Matt Damon, that Matt Damon bled on the earth, and then out of that, humans were born. We don't know exactly how that happened, or how they believe that happened. Because we've never really had a Daemonist to speak to. We've only had some of their writings and leftovers from their attacks, quote unquote, which were often just like notes at a lunch table or something. So that's where most of our information comes from. But yeah, presumably he fought the Biden or something. I don't know. Who knows? But Daemonists are bound by blood to the Daemon. In that sense, the leader is called the Blood Leader. Besides the leader, we don't know anything else. We don't know the structure at all. We just know that one thing. And no one's ever actually been confirmed a Daemonist. Plenty of people have been accused of it being a Daemonist, like Ray of Newtides, but there's never been any concrete evidence. So we don't really know much of anything about the Church of Matt Damon. And it's unknown even if it's still in operation. Now, it's believed that it ended in 2017, because that was when the last of the attacks were made, but who knows? It could still be out there. Unlikely, but it's possible. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll try to answer them. Have a good day.